Hello everyone, I'm Tech Bob. Welcome to eTech Live Facebook Friday. I think I said that backwards, but you got the gist of it. Today we'll be covering the home button install process on an iPad. This is something that we've been asked a couple times by our customers, local and remote. And it's one of those things where if you don't do it right, you're going to know because your home button either isn't going to work or it's going to feel off. Either it doesn't click or it's sunken in. So to start off with today's session, I'm going to pop up this overlay here. These are actually the tools that we use, that we're going to be using for this video today, as well as what we use for our process itself. Now, not all these things are absolutely required, like the heating pad, but it definitely helps. You can use a heat gun or some other heat source. It's just what we recommend to use. The pricing and SKUs are also listed there, so if you are interested in doing this exact process, go ahead and pause this video when it is posted to our channel. Go to our website and you can build your cart from there. So I'm going to take the tool overlay off and get going with the process. So the first thing we're going to have to do is remove the home button, the old home button from the screen. As with any screen that has a Touch ID related home button, you do have to transfer it over for Face ID to still work. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to take our heating pad actually, turn that on, and I actually have the smaller version of our heating pad right here. For the purpose of today's video, that's the only surface I need to heat this, but if you are doing iPad repair or screen replacement, we do recommend buying the bigger version of this as it covers the entire area of the iPad. This will work up to an iPad mini, but it won't cover anything like an iPad Air 6 or larger. So we'll let that heat up for just a couple minutes, and this one should be pretty quick, so I'm actually going to expedite it a little bit just so we don't keep everyone here for longer than we need to. But while that's heating up, I'm going to take some alcohol and my plastic spudger, and I'm going to start from the far left-hand side and work my way underneath the flex cable. This is what we're going to free first, is the flex cable portion. So then when we're dealing with the bracket, this part won't tear. And a couple of safety things for this process. One, we want to make sure that we do not rip this cable because that kind of defeats the purpose of removing it carefully. And two, you don't want to hurt yourself with broken glass or anything like that. So just use caution if the screen is heavily damaged. This one isn't that bad, but it is a little bit broken around the home button area. So we're going to take that off, but we have the flex cable free. Then we're going to take our blade, and we're going to, again, use a little bit of alcohol. We're going to use this to get underneath the bracket portion. Again, if the glass is broken here, it might be a little harder to take off. If it does get difficult, you can heat again. I am doing this on the heating pad, which you can definitely do. But if you have difficulty in doing this, you can always take it off the heating pad too. There's one flex cable portion I had not removed yet. Right over here on the left. We do want to free that just to make sure that everything comes up together. So at this point right here, we have our bracket and our flex cable free. What we don't have free is the home button itself. Now, an important tip here, when you're taking the home button off, there's 3 layers to this button. There's the adhesive that holds it against the screen, there's a spacer, and then a gasket. And then I guess the 4th layer could be the home button itself. But what you're trying to do here with removing it is get all the way underneath the spacer itself, because that's what you want to keep together. A lot of the times we see iPads that come into us for diagnostic repair. The issue we see with the home button install is that the gasket itself is missing, or not the gasket, the spacer. So in this case right here, I got the home button off with the gasket, spacer, and button all together. It's hard to see, but there's a little thin plastic ring that's connected then to a rubber gasket. That's kind of what gives your home button its spongy feel when you press it, and that's what you want. So our old screen is gone. I'm going to throw that off to the side. I'm going to grab our new screen. Now you'll notice that the new screens do sometimes come with the spacer on there. I'm actually going to take this spacer off just because I have my original one intact. If I had damaged my original spacer, I would go ahead and leave this on there and just glue my gasket straight to it. So the next thing I'm going to do is, before I go into liquid adhesive, I need to put some more adhesive on the bracket because we want to make sure this thing doesn't unstick from the screen once we put it on there. And for that, we're going to use Tessa 5mm wide adhesive, if I can find the starting end of this. And I didn't mention this in the tools needed, but these are thread cutting, thread cutting scissors, or adhesive cutting scissors, what we use them for. They're great for cutting adhesive like this. They're really precise to use. So I'm just going to cut a piece for each side. Cool, so that'll take care of our bracket. Now, another thing we need to take care of is the actual adhesive holding. I'm going to turn the heating pad off too, it's getting a little toasty. You obviously don't need the heating pad on while you're installing it. It was just here for the demo. I'll actually move this to the side since we are done with the heating pad. Now for putting the home button on here, we've got the adhesive on here. Now we need to put the adhesive on our actual glass. So to do this, we use the E8000. We use this over double-sided tape because this is basically non-existent when it comes to thickness. If you use double-sided tape, that can affect the thickness of your spacing, and then that's what will cause an issue with your home button sitting right. So as far as putting this on there, we do little dots all the way around it. So I'm gonna go dot, 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 all the way around. You're not trying to put a whole lot on there. You're just trying to get enough adhesive to where whenever you put that home button on there, the spacer will grab it. And that's what will give you that good seal again, so you don't end up with a sunken home button or a non-clicking home button. Before I lay this on there, I do want to remove the paper backing on this adhesive. So you can use your spudger for this or some tweezers. You can pretty much use anything with a point. All right, so I got the paper off of that. Then I'm going to lay my home button in there. Make sure it's aligned with the opening, and then lay your bracket on as well, making sure you align it as best possible because alignment is very important here. And as far as the flex cable goes, this will stick underneath the plastic of this screen, so we do recommend lifting the plastic up. Oh, this was actually cut pretty well. So if the plastic does go under here, you want to get this cable underneath it. Just make sure you're keeping your digi clean. Another thing, speaking of the digi at this point, I haven't mentioned, you want to make sure you test your screen obviously before you move the home button over, so you're not having to do it multiple times. But that looks like it's on there well. Flip it over, and then if you hear that clicking sound, that's what you're going for right there. Now, as far as home button common issues, I'm gonna cover these before we end on that point. The issues we normally see with sunken home buttons have to do with either not having the spacer, using too much adhesive, using not enough adhesive. There's also, I didn't show you on that home button, but this little actuator in the center, it's a little nub, or it's sometimes referred to as a nipple, but this little plastic piece, if that becomes worn down, which does happen with home buttons over time, or it falls off or breaks or whatever may happen to it, and that's not there, your home button will not click. So what you can do to save that home button with Touch ID, we have a couple of these. We sell these on the site. It's just the home button flex for an iPad 5. Or if you get a digitizer that comes with the home button, don't throw these away. If you're using the original home button and you're not using the one that came with the screen, save these, because then you can pull this off later on and basically give life back to the home button that its life is now gone because that little actuator is done. But with that being said, our home button is on there. It's clicking. We do recommend testing this a couple times, so press it, really make sure you get that going. If you have any of your E8000 adhesive that bleeds over into the front of the screen, you can usually just take your finger and rub off that adhesive, or you can take a little bit of alcohol and a microfiber and clean it off. If you're still experiencing an issue with the home button sinking in, another tip we can offer here is if you bend this bracket slightly inward, so if you think about it, it's going to just push the home button towards the front of the screen a little more. That'll help with your spacing. But if you follow the tips we mentioned today and you make sure you have your spacer, use the E8000 adhesive, put new adhesive on your bracket, your home button should feel as close to original as possible, and that's really what we're going for with any repair, right? So if you found this video helpful, please give us a thumbs up on this video, as well as we're going to post all of these to our YouTube channel as good reference content to come back to. This is the method, as I mentioned, that our techs use here, and we've had success for well over thousands of iPads that we've done by now. And this is applicable for pretty much any iPad that has a home button that transfers over. So as far as old as the Airs all the way up to the iPad Pro series. So if you follow this, you should have good luck with any iPad you do. Thanks everyone for watching, and that's going to be it for today's live session. Stay tuned for next week, where we will be doing a review of the iCopy 2.1, which is a pretty cool tool. So come back then and we'll go over that next Friday. Everyone have a great rest of their Friday. Tech Bob out.